memories save 97 minutes per week. What say you, Rox from Gosney?
Slack helps us build community, it helps us build connection.
Your partners, vendors and customers all in one place. Take us on home, Ashley from Caraway.
If we didn't have Slack tomorrow, I would explode.
Well, let's not let that happen. Visit slack.com/podcast to get 50% off Slack Business Plus.
Raoul Peck had access to Orwell's manuscripts and letters and journals, and among the many jarring things about the documentary, hearing the actor Damian Lewis bring the man who would become Orwell to life. Eric Arthur Blair was born in British India in 1903. And on his way to being a writer, he was an imperial police officer in what was then known as Burma. By the time he was an adult, writing under the pen name George Orwell in the 1940s, there had been 2 world wars, and he had witnessed the fascism in Europe. Orwell wrote from experience. In that way, he and director Raoul Peck are the same.
As somebody who's born in Haiti, who has known what dictatorship means, who have seen his parent whispering in the living room because they didn't want me to hear certain things. My father lost his job as a scholar in the faculty of the very same dictatorship I'm talking about in Haiti, like the Duvalier regime, who stayed, father and son, who stayed more than 35 years in power. But they were able to stay that long because they were supported by every single U.S. administration.
First of all, and I don't want to be presumptuous, but you very much understand the power of words, language, images. And how do you think about a term like propaganda? And how has that changed kind of before and after this project, 2 + 2 is 5?
So yes, the importance of word, the importance of, we are all humans, we are impressionable. And it's especially if the words come from the state itself, from leaders themselves. So if we don't know anymore what is the truth or what is a fake, and we are in the middle of that, it's impossible to see through. Orwell discovered something very early on, the significance of language. And being in the democracy, being even in a society, is that particular group agreed that certain words mean certain things.
And it's funny, in my line of work, I feel sometimes right at the little catalyst point of those kinds of things, where I'll watch a talking point, a political talking point, which is even the term we use just for the propaganda that is brought to the various parties for the purpose of spreading it, okay, just to try and use it in a neutral term. And now all of a sudden you're trying to have a conversation with someone who is using those terms. And you're in this battle of interjecting the facts, but now you're arguing, and now it looks like it's something that is an argument instead of something that is a case of a fact and not a fact.
Exactly.
And it feels very much, what I appreciate about a doc is, in a documentary, you can have that conversation with a kind of clarity that sometimes it feels like I'm in an informational fog of war.
Yeah, but there is something that we can call the truth, even a mathematical truth. That's why we call the film 2 + 2 = 5, because we have a number of people who wants you to believe that 2 + 2 = 5, and who can get you confused. Because when it's a voice of authority who comes on TV and tells you, you know what? As of today, 2 + 2 = 5. And by the time you start to understand, wait a minute, that's not what I remember. And the time is gone, and you're already submerged by what you call the propaganda, basically.
Submerge is a good word.
Yeah.
So it does feel like the water is rising sometimes.
That was the plan. Let's flood the zone. So Orwell has a phrase for that. And it's really a good phrase to think about when he said, the degradation of language is the condition for the degradation of democracy.
Wait, so let me say that again. The degradation of language is the condition for the degradation of democracy.
Yes. So that means it starts there with language. And it's incredible, but it's simple. And we have seen, and that's the other thing, sometimes I have, discussion with colleagues and friends. It didn't start with Donald J. Trump. We have seen that degradation, and unfortunately, the press have been somehow complicit with it, sometimes knowingly, sometimes not knowing it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Can I challenge this for a second? Because one of the things I've wrestled with is, particularly for American press, even Western press, as you're talking about, things like propaganda, yellow journalism, they're from way earlier in the century.
Yes, of course.
And that wasn't truly a fact-based time in a lot of ways.
Yeah, but there were resistance, and
there was, exactly.
And there were regulations.
But there's something about Watergate also that sort of taught American journalists and taught a generation that here's what's going to happen. There's going to be a revelation in which you will reveal a truth. There will be politicians and average people who will say, aha, the truth, and they will act.
Yes.
That feels broken to me. That feels like now we're in a scenario where something might be revealed and someone else will say, well, that's not true. Or is it? And now and it's just, you're in a cycle now. And it's really broken, and it feels like we are not prepared to deal with it. And I don't mean for you to be my therapist, Raoul Peck, as a journalist, but
it's true.
Do you know what I'm saying?
True.
Like, it's something that we were raised
called newspeak rationalization. In fact, they were cutting the budgets, and within also newspapers, television, etc. And there was the talk about how do we get more viewers,
right?
And one of the idea was, let's make everything shorter, let's make everything simple, let's have debates, but opinion debates, not debates based on argumentation, on numbers, on analysis, on reports. And I remember that show on